At now live, episode 1.
Ooh,
That
says recording.
Hello.
Yeah.
The tea.
Yeah, hello.
Welcome to the Tablespoon Podcast. What is it?
Where you can get
Super
your
Bros podcast.
well-measured information.
Yes.
Tech.
Episode 1. Share now. All right, sharing this Twitter. Kaboom.
So we're going to talk about things.
Do you want me to do the little intro? Hello.
Yeah, man.
All right, cool. Hey, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of the Super Bros podcast. What is the Super Bros podcast? The Super Brothers. I thought it was the Super Bros.
Super Bros, man.
All right. The Super Bros podcast aims to be an organized discussion about the artistic, cultural, and political landscape. We want to facilitate organic, constructive conversations about issues that matter the most and encourage all of our listeners to actively participate during our live recording sessions. That is the manifesto, as he calls it, that our friend Miguel here. Miguel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Miguel.
Hi.
How's it going?
Name?
Melendez.
Miguel Melendez. And Candido
Crespo.
What's up, everybody? Candido Crespo.
This is Candido Crespo, and my name's Jose Antonio Ojeda. We are the 3 hosts. This is episode 1 of the Super Bros podcast. This is something that we've been kicking around for a while. So, all right, like most good ideas, let's just get right into it, right?
Sure.
Excellent. Take it away. Another one of our hosts.
Miguel, why don't you
All
get
right,
this
so
conversation going, man?
Yeah, let's just jump in and talk a little bit about what we've been doing. What are we up to?
Okay.
What's going on? Jose, you want to start?
No, I want to pass.
Yeah.
I didn't think.
I got it.
I don't
I
have
got it. All right. So,
Go ahead, Dito.
just to, I guess, I think what would be good for our viewers is to get to know us a little bit better. So why don't we slowly ease them into our lives? So
Cool.
It's going to say it eventually on our website too. So they'll have that access to our information. But I think one way to get to know somebody is to know what they're currently involved in or what has captured their attention. So I am a artist and geek for sure. So I'm all about comic books, video games, and right now I'm totally reading the all new Wolverine. Wolverine's always been one of my favorite characters, so it's kind of awesome to see a female lead in that role now.
There's a female lead in that role?
Yep.
There's a female Wolverine?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Cool.
Really?
She's awesome. Yeah,
Wow.
she's awesome.
I didn't know that. All right.
And I'm
Was
reading
she one of the other characters and then became Wolverine? You know how they do that with, like, Captain America?
So she's sort of a clone, like a Logan's clone, kind of.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Also produced in something similar to Weapon X Factory.
Okay.
Or facility. So that's been pretty good. And I'm reading Black Panther because I'm really interested in how a novelist can become a comic book writer. So I want to see how that transitions, and so far it's been fantastic.
Okay.
I don't know anything about that. So the writer of the Black Panther was a novelist?
Yeah. The title of his book is, do you know offhand?
No.
Between the World and Me. Yeah.
Okay.
Between the World and Me. Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he is a novelist, social rights activist,
right?
And he is the new writer for the new Black Panther.
Wow.
He's also
it's pretty interesting.
The Atlantic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's not an artist, right? He's not
the artist.
Okay,
No.
He just writes storylines.
Right.
Right. That's cool. Wow, that's exciting.
Right. Did you read that book, Between the World and Me?
No, I have it, but I haven't read it yet.
I have it if you want to borrow it.
Okay.
I'd actually be interested too.
I'm gonna write this down.
After having read that, to see if any of what he speaks about in Between the World and Me comes out
In the comic.
or
So he's doing a lot of building right now. So it's sort of like
Okay.
catching up, catching readers up that maybe aren't familiar with the Black Panther, especially if he brought in a population of non-comic book readers,
right, which I think is
into the
probably
world of comics. Yeah. So there's a lot of backstory happening right now. Building. It's more building than anything else. And then just to finish my statement, video game life. Miguel and I just bought Ninja Turtles game that seems to be getting slammed on reviews, and we haven't even had a chance
Terrible
to try it
reviews.
yet.
That sucks. That's
So
funny.
I'm still
Well,
excited to try it because it calls back to those days where we were playing SNES.
innocence,
Turtles.
You mean the
What was
original
that one called? Yeah.
number 2, where you like jump and kick? You go like this, you go that, and that's all you do, and that's how you beat everything.
But you said SNES though, right?
Turtles in Time or something.
Yeah, that's Turtles in Time.
No. This is before. This is where
Yeah, you're talking about the NES one.
yeah, where they like bring back spring because of the weather, and that like weather rat made it cold.
Yeah.
Right?
The NES one is so difficult, man.
Where it starts like in a fire.
I don't think I ever played that one.
You start in a
No.
building that's on fire. This is the best game ever. No, that was
There's
weird.
fire. There's fire in this game.
Oh, good.
Apparently there's subways that are on fire for no reason.
I
Yeah,
heard
it's because
something
we're
about-
going to be coming in those subways.
about
That's a weird fire.
ninjutsu.
Ninjutsu, yeah. You read it? You
Yeah.
read the article?
Sort
Was
of,
it?
yeah. You sent it to me. Yeah, you're like ninjutsu and like pizza.
It's healing pizza.
Healing pizza. At least they still have healing pizza.
Yo, all right. Miguel,
All
what
right,
do you
yes.
think?
Miguel.
So a little bit about me. I went to school out in Stony Brook, not with these guys, but they went to Stony Brook after me. But I guess we should mention too that we all pledged the same fraternity.
Boom. That's when
Landers-
everybody
Landers.
stops watching the podcast. That's it.
God,
Super bros.
they really are bros.
We'll just let it go there for now, but we'll probably reference it throughout.
We hate
Absolutely.
fraternities.
So after school, I got involved with public service. I've been working for the federal government for the last 6 years. And more recently, I'm working as a software developer, and I'd like to sort of see if I can take my passion for helping people and building things as a software developer and merge the two. So yeah, Jose.
No, what are you into now? Like that's your background. but
Oh,
like,
right. So what am I doing?
Zika.
I am. Yeah, Zika. We can talk about Zika.
Say it, man. We say it so that me and Jose can celebrate in your current stresses, man. Say it.
So I'm currently planning for a wedding, which is going to take place in July.
Hard work.
Congratulations.
That's hard
On
work.
all
He's
of that
engaged,
work.
being engaged.
Yeah, being engaged is a lot of work.
Right. Yep. So I'm seeing that firsthand now, and actually, Zika actually does come into play because we were
Yep.
originally to be married in Central America, in Honduras, where my mother's from,
Right.
small town, but sort of with everything that's going around, with Zika, we decided with that and also logistical issues, it would be better to just hold the wedding here in the United States. So.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
it's
we'll
one
get
of
back
those.
to
It's I guess we'll jump back to Zika.
yeah, so that's taking a lot of my time now. But I guess
Yeah,
more
man.
generally, more broadly, same thing. I'm a nerd. I've always followed tech culture. I do a little writing about games. I'm interested in making games, creating games.
Do you write
Um,
fan fiction?
I don't, but
That's
I
a really
should.
nerdy thing. So maybe you should look into it.
He cosplays
did-
at home, though. I know that.
We won't talk about that on air.
Okay.
I did. Do you guys know what? Do you guys know about Antag? I'm throwing it back. This is a long time
Antag?
ago. Yeah,
Antagonistic gameplay. I'm trying to.
it was like back in the culture of like chat rooms and like forums.
Okay.
People would sort of like create. It wasn't fan fiction because it wasn't based off like properties, but it was sort of like people would just develop stories together, like in chat rooms. And have you heard of that? No,
Are you
okay.
no? Are you a big
Okay.
Redditor? Like, are you in Reddit?
I've never got involved with Reddit.
You're doing all of the not geek things.
He's like, he's like,
You gotta get.
no,
I'm
no.
a pretender, really.
Wait,
I
he goes
just,
to like hack festivals and stuff.
I buy all this. I buy all this tech stuff. and
Are you
then
on
I get,
4chan?
I get a bunch of stickers, and
You
then
have
I
a
just
space sticker.
like show it to people.
I went to space.
Can you wear that sticker for the rest of the show, please? Little nasty right here.
Yeah,
I-
put a little.
I would, but I want to actually put it somewhere. So
Oh, okay.
I don't want to waste it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that was actually from a hackathon I went to a couple weeks ago.
Damn, a hack con. That's cool. I'm jealous. I wish I knew how to do anything like program, code. I think about every
All right.
third day. I'm like, do I want to code? And then
Dude, you turned 20.
my turn.
the foam into beautiful artwork, I think Miguel could be a little jelly of that.
Maybe.
Yes.
My
let's
FOMO.
talk about those.
Oh,
FOMO? Did you say
FOMO? Yeah, FOMO. You're missing out on foam.
Let's talk about Iron Man over here.
Me.
Yes. Yeah.
My name is Jose. I am an artist. I went to Dartmouth for undergrad, and I got my master's from Stony Brook. So I'm MFA, Stony Brook University. It's like 3 years ago now, 3 or 4 years. Time goes by fast. So we all have that Stony Brook link, which is good. I hear the water pouring.
That's my water.
This is my water.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
water. That's water.
And not wine. What else about me? So I do a lot of metal work. Let me see if I have anything around in arm's reach. I make oh look, frat. We all love frats.
Hello.
So I make hand cut metal stuff. Where's my saw?
Nice.
And I use this thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, use a machine." I'm like, no, I use this. So I go like.
Look at
Oh
that.
wow.
How beautiful.
So I've been doing that
Handcraft.
for lots of years. That's sort of my medium or the artwork that I do. Lately, I'm a graphic designer right now in a marketing team, which is cool. I do some video editing. So like real world application of creativity. I suppose.
What do you use to edit
To do what? Edit video?
video? Mm-hmm.
What do I use? Motion. I use Motion 5.
Oh, Motion.
Yeah.
And Final Cut.
And Final Cut.
Okay.
Like a few days ago, I realized I had Adobe Premiere.
Okay.
I just didn't realize I had it. This really expensive program. So I have that. I have After Effects. So I gotta keep playing around. I think
Nice.
early on I realized I was good at layers.
Mhm.
Working with layers and visualizing things like that.
Mhm.
So all of these programs, I just need practice,
Mhm.
and then eventually I pick it up. What am I into? I'm really into politics lately. Like super into politics. Like that's my sports. I always joke around. So I'm always
Nice.
following things on Twitter, on Facebook. I watch CNN constantly. I don't know. I'm like addicted to it. So
That's good because that'll be our second topic today.
good. So that's a little backstory.
Can I drop something real quick?
Drop
I
it.
didn't even say what school I went to.
Oh well.
Oh yeah.
By all
I
means.
did my
talk about
under- so this is just quick. I did my undergraduate work at SUNY New Paltz, and then I ended up at Stony Brook like these other two guys. Follow the leader.
college educated Latino
Oh my God.
males.
Look at us.
Yeah, look at us.
Look at
Talking
us. Super,
through-
huh?
Super. Do you hear the dog? Never mind.
Yeah.
Dude,
who's that?
is that your dog?
Yeah.
Not mine.
It's a long story. Anyway.
Yeah, wait a minute.
What?
You didn't have a dog?
No, I didn't have a dog. We're borrowing. We're borrowing my wife's dog. Yeah. So he's kind of just here. It's
Okay.
some fun. Yeah. He's very cute. I gave him a haircut yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did. It was fun. And I only bring that up because I put on like Spanish music, like merengue ripiao.
It was
So
like
it
a
felt like I
barbershop.
was in the barbershop. I
Mhm.
had the old
In the
puppy
Heights.
barbershop going on. Yeah. I've never cut dog hair before, but I think if all else fails, there's something there. There's always something there. You can always create opportunities for yourself.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I have a. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I don't
What
know.
I
What are we
just
jumping into?
No, I wanted to hear what Jose had for this week in protest.
in the news.
This week in protest. This week in activism.
week
We're
in
going to jump
activism.
right into that. Let's see.
Yeah, I think so.
This week in activism. I wonder if at some point we're going to have like
Do we need
production.
drops?
We definitely need some sound effects.
Uh,
Oh, do you have?
do I have sound effects? I see. I got to.
I thought I just heard something.
He's a beat. He does beatbox too now.
The
So
yes, I wanna do
Um,
this because I have links to things, but I don't know if it's even worth showing too much. If we're just going to rattle them off, I could just talk.
yeah, let's just talk
So-
about it. There's that company Spectre,
Spectre.
which they're building a pipeline. I think it's called like the AIM pipeline,
Okay.
and it's apparently it's like I don't want to say miles, but it's really close to Indian Point,
Okay.
the nuclear facility up in upstate New York.
Mhm.
And so they're talking about there's protests there. Did you hear about that?
I have not. This is the first I'm hearing about it. The
Oh,
thing when I
That's
was
interesting.
thinking about this segment of This Week in Activism is
Okay.
there's so much everywhere around the world. And if we don't pay attention to it, then we put a blind eye. You know, it's just so much. Like it's an overwhelming amount of activism that's going on. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It's good that people are standing up and fighting for what they believe in. It stinks that there's so much to fight for. But there's always going to be something to fight for. So I'll start with Paris. So this morning I saw that there was a protest in Paris. Just today, thousands of people hit the streets of Paris to protest against labor reforms. It was a little hard to follow because there's a language barrier. It's so crazy now that we can watch these protests via Periscope, like live. So typically what I'll do is I'll hear or see something on Twitter, there's a protest, and then I'll go on Periscope or even there on Twitter, and you can just be right there in the middle of the action. So everyone is like a man on the street.
Right.
Like I remember a few years ago, CNN had this thing called iReport where you can sort of be the man on the street. But we completely decentralized that. And in any sort of movement, anyone could be the eyes and ears, which is amazing. So there was a protest in Paris. There was a concern because there was someone who had extremist links, who had like a knife and a tear gas bomb, but he was subdued by police. That whole area right now is sort of jittery over kind of terrorism because of what happened several months ago. But anyway, that was there's like labor disputes. There's long gas lines going on. So Paris is dealing with things. Segue to right now here in the United States, Verizon enters its 6th week on strike. 39,000 Verizon workers. It's the biggest U.S. labor action in several years. So that's been going on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Something that I thought was really big was there's protests in Peru. They're currently protesting against the candidate Keiko Fujimori for president. And Fujimori, if you recall that name, is because her father was the president several years ago in the 90s. And I remember growing up, that was sort of my first encounter with race in politics, you know, because we all grew up Hispanic. This is a good opportunity to point out. My family's from Ecuador, so we got South America. Miguel, your family's from
My mother's from Honduras and my father's Puerto Rican.
From Honduras, so you have sort of Central America covered, and then Dito.
I want to jokingly say like my mom's from Puerto Rico and my dad's from East New York. It'll be all Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rican, you got the Caribbean covered. So we have a diverse sort of perspective here. But growing up, I always remember the president Fujimori was Japanese, right? He was like this Japanese-looking gentleman, but he was the leader of a Latin American country. And I remember growing up, that was sort of interesting for me to process. But regardless, at the time I didn't know that Fujimori was such like a bad person, which I'm more finding out. So there were massive protests held in Lima, Peru, marching against presidential candidate Keiko Fujimori. It's the longest since the end of her father's decade-long rule in 2000. At least 30,000 people joined the march on the 24th anniversary of his infamous self-coup, or autogolpe, when Alberto Fujimori dissolved the Congress, assumed extraordinary powers, and sent tanks and soldiers into the streets. So that was like a few weeks ago, but recently, as a week ago, there were a lot of topless protesters. Have you heard of this?
No.
Actually.
Yeah, there was a group of women who went topless and protested. I think they all wrote the word Kiko, the candidate's name, on their chest, because they're protesting the modification of a penal code committing women who have had an abortion to community service.
Whoa.
Yeah, can you believe that? So there's crazy things. If you thought things were nuts here in the United States, you'll find tastes of crazy all around the world. So we're all dealing with it. And in this age of social media, it's cool and it's important to be engaged, not only here in America, but across the world in what everyone's dealing with, because we're all on a different kind of line, right? On a different plane in terms of activism. some of us have already achieved like gay rights or suffrage or what have you, the right to vote. I mean, whatever the issue is, we're all on a different spectrum. So we can all learn from each other and teach each other and give us, like, hey, we've been through this before. This is the roadmap on how to get out of this. Yeah. And then to wrap up this week in activism, there's been a few protests at Trump rallies in the past few days. The one in New Mexico and also one in California. And I suspect that the protests against Trump will only continue.
Yeah, those are getting a little sloppy, huh?
Now, what do you mean sloppy?
Violent.
Yeah, violent before necessity. I don't think. See, it would be odd for me to say that the violence isn't necessary at some point, but I don't know if it's there yet.
Violence is a funny word that the media likes to immediately solicit. If that makes sense, because and I love watching politics and news because the more outlets, the better of a story you get in a perspective. Because the media is chomping at the bit to want to say that something is violent, right? Mm-hmm. They would love nothing more. For example, the Bernie Sanders protest, the action in Nevada, where the town hall, I forget the convention that they had in Nevada, they immediately said, the Bernie supporters were throwing chairs when it turns out that someone lifted up a chair and then that was it. And he put it back down, right? So... And whether he was right or not to do that, you can just see the level of exaggeration and the quickness of the media to want to say that something was violent. So I don't know how much violence there actually was at these protests, because we didn't really see that much, as opposed to inside previous Donald Trump protests where you actually see people punching other people.
Yeah, that's different. And that's definitely not going to go in an activism category for sure.
Right. So is violence ever the answer? I mean, you don't want anyone to be hurt. But
I think it's important too, though, to draw a distinction between what's going on here and what's going on in like other Trump rallies where you have like Trump actively like trying to amp up the audience and asking people to basically hurt, inadvertently, go ahead, go hurt that guy. I'll take care of the balls.
Absolutely.
Whereas like what's going on now is people protesting against like this police state, this authoritarian white supremacist, hell that they've basically been enduring, right? Mm-hmm. And so Trump represents basically all of that, wrapped up into one person. And so you can kind of see why people are so frustrated and why there are these protests at the scales, at the scale that it is.
And it keeps feeding itself, right? Because there were a lot of Mexican flags that were being waved at this protest. And of course, you run to Twitter and you see on both sides of this, they're like, get out of our country, blah, 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 blah. Exactly. And that only feeds the other side. So this is only going to keep adding on to itself and escalating.
I wonder if... because we have the potential of having a Trump-Sanders debate. I know people are throwing that around.
Right.
And I wonder if, what's the likelihood of that getting violent? Because I could see that getting pretty ugly.
I imagine that being like a soccer. You know how I have soccer matches?
Wars?
Yeah. You have everyone in a stadium, and like half the stadium is one thing, half the stadium is another. I don't think we've ever had that sporting thing here in the United States. That's very much Latin America. But I imagine that's sort of what it would feel like, or
what if it's like Gangs of New York, like a scene straight out of Gangs of New York?
Kind of.
But like if you're gonna do it, like you weaponize and then you make it happen.
I don't know how you keep that sort of thing organized at all. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine being a Trump or Bernie supporter? In a sea of Bernie or Trump supporters. So
that's tricky.
It's gonna be a really messy next.
They'll probably go
months.
private with that. I'm sure that's gonna go private.
I don't think they're gonna do it at all. I have a feeling it's not gonna happen. There's gonna be too many kind of weird things.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like Trump is back.
But it flip flops back and forth. So yeah.
So now that we're on the topic,
sure,
I'm going to pull Trump out of this conversation.
Yeah, because we could spend weeks.
Yeah. And
can I say one last thing though?
Absolutely.
About him? Oh, activism.
Yeah, just because before I said something about the Spectre, it's actually Spectra Energy, which is building the AIM pipeline, which stands for Algonquin Incremental Market Pipeline, and yeah, basically what I said. It's dangerously close to
Indian Point, you said.
in the Peekskills. Yeah, so people are up there protesting that, and apparently there are activists living inside shipping containers.
Oh,
yeah, in order to kind of like stop people from building out the pipeline.
Right.
So yeah. So
Another thing about pipelines. Sorry that we keep coming. I just heard today an interview where Trump was like, "Oh yeah, I'll absolutely do the Keystone Pipeline. Yeah, absolutely, unequivocally." So that's just another area where I feel like if there is a President Trump, and believe me, there is a possibility, there is a good chance, not a solid chance, but there is a good chance that there will be a Trump presidency. I feel like the protests will just never end. They just will continue for the next 4 years.
Then we'll see. Then we might see actually revolution. Maybe not political.
Maybe not. You know. Either way,
Anyway,
it's
we were
going to be
gonna
messy. Yes, let's move on.
We're gonna get off this topic.
One of the things about this podcast is we want to keep it somewhat brief and packaged because we know that people's attention spans are really like limited.
But these guys have big brains.
So we're gonna keep it to somewhat 30 minutes. We'll probably run over a little bit today, but we're gonna keep talking afterwards. So we're gonna cut the recording and then keep talking.
Let's see how much of this Democratic primary conversation we could get going. Then, so that's what I meant by let's remove Trump from the conversation.
So Clinton, Trump?
Yeah, no,
sorry, Clinton.
Clinton
Sanders. Trump. I have Trump on my brain. All I can think is Trump.
I know,
Trump
man.
versus Trump.
Every time. Oh,
We have an addiction to the Trump. All right, no more Trump.
So, Miguel, you got this? You want to start up that conversation?
I could. I mean, I'm pretty biased.
Well, all right. Let's talk about this. All right. So the corporate media coverage specifically for Democratic primaries. All right. So we've been witnessing it. We've been witnessing this for, it's fair to say, over a year now, right?
Yes.
Specifically for these candidates.
Absolutely. I think it just continues to get more and more prevalent. You have this journalistic gaslighting where it doesn't matter what Senator Sanders is really saying. People are constantly running articles on the idea that Clinton is going to be the nominee, and just completely shutting out Senator Sanders. That's like the corporate media, but you actually see this support like you haven't seen for a major political candidate in such a long time. I was watching something earlier, and they said something like California, I think the last day to register to vote in California, they registered on that day 200,000 people. Wow. And most of them were young. So that gives you an idea of how much support Senator Sanders is rallying.
Right.
To be fair and somewhat impartial, some of those were also Hillary supporters.
No, I'm sure there were. Yeah, but
so
we'll see. I guess we'll see in coming weeks.
So what are we talking about specifically? Just that Sanders is being sort of blacklisted from mainstream attention?
No, but that's what we could talk about.
Oh, well,
we're just talking in general about the media coverage for the Democratic primaries.
Yes, everyone's under the assumption that Senator Clinton is going to win the nomination. And whether that's right or not, it's still very much an ongoing process. That's not over. So even from the beginning, it was a very skewed narrative.
Right.
Young people like us, educated or even just young and tech savvy, we have an advantage because we have an ability to access more information than, let's say, older generations who don't use the internet as much. And all they get is the corporate media, right? So if all that those people at home know is Clinton, then Sanders was at a disadvantage to begin with.
Right. I think it's easy even for young people to be sort of funneled into to mainstream. It might not be, you know, your CNN, your Fox News, but still NPR, your sort of,
Sure.
you know, Associated Press, still, you know, still pretty mainstream news outlets that still have a very skewed sort of pro Hillary. You know,
I think I'm a prime example. I almost missed it.
You almost missed the Bernie vote.
I almost missed the Bernie vote, man. I didn't know anything about the guy, and it took conversations with my wife and my mother-in-law for me to actually receive.
Your mom's on board. Your mother-in-law's on board. Oh, yeah. She's the best. So here's the thing. I've been following Bernie for a while. I could go on and on about it, but for over a year, I've been following him. I saw him speak, and I was like, I don't even care if he wins or not. I'm voting for this guy. You know what I mean? Because whatever, I like him. If he gets 0%, I'm still voting for him. And then eventually, everyone else saw what I was seeing and caught on. I truly believe if Sanders had started like half a year before, or at least he was more, people thought he had a chance. Because no one thought he had a chance for months until like even kind of recently, until after the elections had started. No one thought he stood a snowball's hell of a chance. If they thought that he had a chance, I think he'd be in a lot better spot right now. But again, this is all just hindsight. A lot of what's going on right now is hindsight, unfortunately. And so we just got to deal with.
I think that some of it has to do with just like establishment. Sort of, you know, this is already written into existence. Basically, like Hillary Clinton was going to get all these super delegates,
sure, it was supposed
regardless of anybody who's going to run against her. And you know, this was her election for the taking. You know, especially considering what happened between her and President Obama. So yeah. I'm concerned about.
Oh, sure.
No, I was going to kind of switch gears a little bit, and there's also this narrative of which I think is pretty dangerous of like, and this was more so true back when there was more than just Trump on the GOP side. The narrative of, oh, you know, look at the GOP, they're a mess. You know, they can't get it together. All they do is, you know, comment about each other's wives or whatever.
Sure.
And we have two great candidates. So, you know, that's what's going on here on the Democrat side. And I think actually that took, I think that's false.
That we have two great candidates?
Yeah, I don't think we do. I think that's far from the truth.
Again,
I think
I'm going to try and be very impartial as I can.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm super biased. But just looking at statistics or, although these are sort of anecdotal, but our two front runners have the lowest, like, favorable rating out of any presidential candidates ever.
Right. And there's definitely a reason for that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So reading between the lines.
And I think what I bringing this back to like corporate media and how it's not, it's not, you know, having fair coverage of, you know, what we should actually be talking about. There's all these, you know, there's all these situations that we could be talking about. Like, for example, the coup in Honduras. Yes. There's a similar coup in Haiti. Everything that, you know, that happened the last few years, the Arab Spring with Syria, Libya. You know, there's just so much that we could be talking about, and we're not really talking about these issues. We're just kind of like
the reality show that is the presidential elections.
That's been
right, and I think that's what people are getting really sort of worked up about, right? That we're not able to have these honest, you know, open discussions.
I don't know that they are. I don't think people are. They're too wrapped up into it to notice that they're missing out on everything else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think people are too inflamed and have their side and have, you know, their minds made up already, and they're just ready to fight it out. And that I don't know how we get out of this. I think whatever happens this election cycle, I think there's a lot of lessons that will be learned from it moving forward. I think there has been.
It'll be forgotten in 8 years.
No. I think it's going to be ongoing throughout the next 8 years. There's sort of an awakening now because of this whole idea that there's a corporate media bias, that people are going to be more inclined to question everything, not in a conspiracy theory sort of way, but
Just
especially
don't take it.
right. Just don't take
Fuck
it.
that.
Do your research. Find alternative sources of media that are on the internet. Private sources, independent sources. I think that we're not just going to get walked all over anymore, and the whole political landscape is going to have to evolve with that thinking. So, in terms of the political revolution, I think it's happened to a degree. It's already happened. And it's funny, we don't want to bring up Trump, but Trump is part of that political revolution. Actually, he's changed the game of what politics is and how it's going to be played. It's never going to be played the same way that it was in 2008 or 2012. Sorry to bring him up again.
Hey, thinking podcast terms and trying to keep that tunnel. Since we're talking about coverage, why don't we see if we change the topic of what's being covered in the media to Zika virus, and how has the media approached enlightening our country with that information?
Cool. Miguel, do you want to start this off, or?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the history of Zika, but I don't think in terms of how it's being covered. Have you guys heard a lot about
Zika? Here's my perspective as the average TV viewer who's listening about Zika. Maybe a few months ago, Zika was, oh my God, Zika. It's everywhere you want to go on vacation. Don't go there because they have Zika. You're not really sure what Zika is, but then you learn that it makes babies' heads small. No, seriously, that's what you thought.
Seriously,
you thought there was an association, and then you thought that was a lie. I heard reports that, oh no, the two are not correlated. It's like causation, not correlation, that sort of thing. Just the conditions that in those specific countries cause the babies, and they also have Zika. But now more evidence has shown that, yes, that actually is what causes that deformity in births. So taking lots of precautions for especially women of child rearing age. Is that the right way to say that?
Pregnant women.
Potentially pregnant women.
Yeah, that's
women.
I think that's okay.
People. I think men. I'm sorry, I'm so ignorant on this subject, but these are the drops that I'm getting. But also at the same time, Zika was just another 4-letter thing that came at us, right? There's also Ebola, right? And so I feel like these things come and go, and we've sort of learned to survive them, never encountering them. Ebola was like, oh my God, Ebola, but then no one got Ebola, right? And so like, okay,
well, that one guy
Ebola can't hurt me.
Lower East Side and had Ebola.
Sure,
and everybody.
But then he was fine, right?
I
feel like people like Zika.
Okay.
It'll go away. I think people think it'll go away on its own.
All right, so I think that the reason it hasn't taken a main stage is if it doesn't affect or doesn't have a great effect in the United States,
right,
and doesn't affect United States money, then United States media will not concern itself with it.
Yeah.
So even like, let's say, the cases that are in Puerto Rico, it's still considered too far from the United States.
Right. And that's like for
all things Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, so Obama recently or in February asked Congress for about $2 billion to combat Zika. So so you would think, right, especially the way Congress is with money and spending, right, like that would be something important to talk about. Why do we need $2 billion for this thing? What is it? So before we kind of chat about it, let me just kind of riddle off some facts here that I came across. So actually, Zika was discovered in 1949 in a forest in Uganda, and it's actually named after that forest, Zika forest. So that was 1949, and then it was seen sporadically, just very sporadically, small cases here and there, and then it wasn't until 2007 in Micronesia that it kind of popped up all of a sudden. And then when that happened, Soon after that, 75% of the population was suddenly exposed to the virus. So that's 2007. 2013, 14 in French Polynesia, Easter Islands, there were some other cases, and what they began to see was a correlation between Zika and Guillain-Barré, which is yes,
Oh my God, I had Guillain-Barré. That's crazy.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, I did. I mean, that's for another podcast. But
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could definitely chime in. So apparently, it's this progressive.
It's an autoimmune syndrome. Basically, your immune system attacks your nervous system and sort of causes like paralysis.
It can cause paralysis,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
progressively.
Sure.
Causes
It
paralysis.
spreads in
Okay,
from
so-
like the extremities, and eventually you'd have to be on a respirator and stuff.
Mm.
So Zika
Right.
is seen to cause that. I guess that makes sense.
So that was the case in French Polynesia. They saw a correlation. So then, fast forward to May 2000 Brazil. This is kind of what we're talking about now, where suddenly there are many, many cases of this thing called microcephaly, which is a condition.
Microcephaly.
Microcephaly, right? Which is the condition you were referring to, where a baby's born, right, with a head that is much smaller than expected. So during pregnancy, a baby's head grows because of the baby's brain. So microcephaly can occur because the baby's brain has not developed properly during pregnancy or has stopped growing after birth, which results in a small head size. Microcephaly can be an isolated condition, meaning that it can occur with no other major birth defects, or it can occur with a combination. So you begin to see this, and then they start to draw. They start taking people's blood samples, and then they start to see that a lot of people with these cases also have the Zika virus. So yeah, that's a little background on where it started and kind of where we are now. So I guess the major theory is that what's going on is that humans are actually transporting the virus, and then in turn mosquitoes are drawing blood from those people who are already infected, and then going and biting somebody else, and then that's how it's being transferred across the earth. The tricky thing about Zika is that it doesn't have to have any crippling symptoms. They're usually really mild, and it passes about in a week's time.
Okay.
And so the biggest causes for concern is with the population that you mentioned, which is pregnant women, or people or women who can potentially be pregnant because of microcephaly. But then also there's a concern for people that live in marginalized or impoverished communities, which is like much of Latin America due to globalization. And because, these people can't escape being bitten, so they really can't escape being, contracting the virus.
Absolutely.
So just as a last fact here, the CDC now says that more than 150 pregnant women in America are affected.
150. Okay.
150. So that was a statistic from today.
And that's
So
not
that's kind of
getting
where we're at
coverage.
now.
It's like
not.
maybe it is. Maybe there's an article here and there, but that's not a big deal. And you think it would be
Because Trump doesn't have it.
Because Trump doesn't have Zika,
Oh man.
even though he might, and we just don't know it.
Right.
That's weird. All right, so 150 actual cases of women with Zika.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's going to get to the point where until we start seeing a lot of babies with microcephaly, until
Right.
that epidemic comes about, and then that's when I don't know. And this is just one example. Zika is just one example of something that could happen. If it's not Zika, it's something else. And again, it'll start at the lower economic stratus. That's where all of this will start. That's where it'll get affected because they don't have the means of clean resources or the ability to not the luxury that we have. Basically, what's this?
Right. The World Health Organization predicts that more than 2,500 babies were born with microcephaly in Brazil.
Say that again. How many?
2,500
2,500 babies. Jesus.
so far. Yeah.
Brazil's a mess. That's another can of worms for another day. Especially because, and I think we'll have to talk about it, if not next week, in one of the coming weeks, because we have the Olympics that are coming up in Brazil.
That's true.
That's another, again, battle.
Hey, I got
Yes.
I got this little piece to add to
Yes, please.
to Zika, the Zika conversation.
Cool.
So I much like Jose, I'm really just not totally in tune with what's happening with the Zika virus, mostly because since the information is not distributed to me, I haven't done any personal research, and most of the conversation has come based on Miguel's situation. But I did read an article on ABC News about a British biotech company called Oxitec that has genetically modified a mosquito that they can use as a means of attacking Zika. So all of the genetically modified mosquitoes are males. So the benefit to that is they won't bite humans because males don't suck blood.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Is that true for all mosquitoes?
I think
I think it might be.
there's a specifics. I think so. I don't want to say yes, but
Right.
the specific type of mosquito, that species that's carrying this virus. Yes.
Wow, I did not know that.
So they're hoping that by mating with the females, they can attack the Zika virus and sort of cancel it out. It's definitely a different means of attacking the virus without the need of pesticide. So I thought that was a pretty intense benefit of it. And it's already been in use in Brazil and the Cayman Islands. But it seems like the results are kind of mixed, or the information that's coming in, whether or not it's been effective.
Right.
Okay.
But I thought it was really interesting, and it makes you kind of wonder, like, hey, if you can genetically modify mosquitoes, is there something we're missing here in the pharmaceutical industry?
Why haven't we solved malaria? Right. Which
exactly.
I heard a stat that malaria has killed more people on the planet than anything else ever.
Oh yeah.
More people on the planet in the history of humans have died from malaria than anything else. So yeah, genetically modify, and instantly I think of Jurassic Park, right, where they start messing around with genes. Yeah, maybe. But and then I think of Jeff Goldblum, who's like life finds a way. So you start messing with it, and you solve one problem, but then you sort of open the floodgates to a whole slew of problems.
Absolutely.
Once you start messing around with Mother Nature or just the biodiversity of the planet, it adapts, right? You shift it one way and it'll come back another.
Right.
The same thing happens with predators, right? Let's say you have like a rodent problem. You introduce one predator, but then now you have all these snakes, right? So I need something to eat all these snakes.
That was a thing in like Hawaii or something.
That's a thing everywhere. That happens in so many places and instances. So I don't know enough, but I've seen enough instances where like, okay, we're gonna get rid of these mosquitoes, but now we have the super male mosquitoes who like will screw something else up. But power to them, man, and hopefully they have enough foresight to think those things through also.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So do we want to wrap up our first episode?
Wow, that went by. These goes by quick, man. I haven't done a podcast in a while, but these podcasts will fly by. I don't know how long we've been recording, like 40 minutes or something.
Hey, I'm already excited about episode 2.
I really want to see this go
man.
and keep going and stuff. What else? Oh, look at this. High fives, everyone.
Yeah, we're dropping props all over the place, man.
All right. Yeah. Hopefully next time we get some
viewers.
We get some viewers.
Live viewers, people who care.
Kind of, help with the conversation.
Can we briefly before we end talk about why we're called the Super Bros? Why are we called this super pretentious name, or this weird name that
we should address that?
Me?
Who wants to do that? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's gotta be Jose.
Oh my god. Well, God, what does that do to me? the super. So we wanted to do a podcast, the three of us together, and we didn't know what to call it. What did you call it, Candido? Something about the shaven.
My paragraph.
Bone. Yeah,
bone
paragraph.
Bone to pick.
Bone and skull. The Skull and Bones podcast.
A bone to pick and an axe to grind.
The bone to pick and an axe to grind. Right, which is great, but very long. And the acronym for that would be a lot longer. So we're thinking of a name.
It's not tablespoon.
It's not tablespoon. TSB, right? TSBP. TSBP.
TSBP.
It'll get easier as time goes on. And so then we didn't know what the name was, and then we're just doing test videos and test chats, and then we were talking about our fraternity, right? And so we were talking about our common experiences and, you know, what kind of bro were you? So we're going around, and it says like, you know, were you a super bro? And like, what does that mean? You know, the super bro, you know, the one who's always at this party or who's super broed out and has like 8 things of para. You know, he just shines gold. He wears like a tiki that's like half the size of his body, for example. I'm not saying any of these are bad things, but we were all commenting of like, were you a super bro? We all knew who super bros were. Right. And in a pseudo negative way. But then we were laughing about it, and then we sort of brought it back around, talking about how we wanted to eventually interview alumni or brothers who had done super things. You know what I mean? Who were actually great. Because we have a big network, and we have a lot of hermanos who are doing some really special things, and eventually we want to talk to them and sort of extract that superness from them. And then the Super Bros, we liked it. The association with like Super Mario Brothers too, because we're all kind of geeky gamer people. So that really struck a nerve. So we were like, I like it. It's short. It's a nice acronym. And we're brothers, you know? I'm not saying that we're super, but I guess now we are. I guess now we are, just by name. Only by name, not necessarily by trait. So again, that's sort of the Cliff Notes version of the evolution of the name, the Super Bros Podcast.
Cool.
You guys want to add anything to that?
Nah, man, that summed it up right there.
All right.
I'll say, if anything, there was a little self-awareness of what the Super Brother was, right? So we're kind of playing with the term a little bit,
right?
And saying, yeah, right. So it's kind of, we're being facetious with it.
And also the term bro gets thrown around a lot now, and sort of in a negative way too. You know, it's like, especially with Bernie Bros. No one wants to be called a Bernie Bro. It's like this offensive word, or like a frat bro. You know, what up, bro? Or the gym rat bro. So I'm not claiming that we're trying to reclaim, take back
episode
the word
2,
bro.
Fitbits.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Episode. Wait, where's your Fitbit? On the other wrist? You don't wear 2 Fitbits, bro?
You know why he's not wearing it?
I never wear it.
You know why he's not wearing it?
I don't know why.
Oh, he got scared, bro.
Bro. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Cool, man. From Candido and Miguel.